If you feel like you can't focus anymore, like long videos feel exhausting, like you start things but never finish them, like nothing really holds your attention the way it used to, this video is not here to shame you. It's here to explain what's actually happening. Because the truth is, your brain isn't broken. You're not lazy, you're not weak, and you're not alone. Something changed. Not inside you, but around you. Most people don't realize this, but your ability to focus is not a personality trait. It's not discipline. It's not motivation. It's a skill shaped by your environment. And over the last 15 to 20 years, that environment has changed dramatically. Back in the early 2000s, the average time someone could stay focused on a screen was around 2.5 minutes. That doesn't sound impressive, but it was enough for deep reading, sustained thinking, and real engagement. Today, that number has dropped to under a minute. In many studies, it's closer to 40 to 50 seconds. That means something important. Your brain is being trained to switch, not to stay. Every notification, every short video, every infinite scroll is teaching your mind the same lesson. Move on. Don't linger. Don't stay with one thing for too long. And over time, your brain adapts to that rule. This is where most people get confused. They think short attention span means low intelligence or lack of effort. But what's really happening is attention fragmentation. There are two very different types of attention. Sustained attention is when you stay with one thing long enough to understand it deeply, to connect ideas, to enter flow. Fragmented attention is when your focus is constantly divided, interrupted, and reset. Modern digital life rewards fragmented attention. It doesn't reward depth. Platforms are designed to keep you moving, not thinking. Every swipe promises something new, something slightly more interesting than the last thing. That unpredictability triggers dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. And here's the part most people miss. Dopamine isn't about pleasure, it's about anticipation. It's about wanting. When your brain gets hundreds of small dopamine spikes every day from short videos, notifications, and quick content, your baseline changes. Slow things start to feel unbearable. Reading feels hard. Long videos feel boring. Conversations feel draining. Not because they are, but because your brain has been conditioned to expect constant stimulation. This is sometimes called the slot machine effect. You never know what the next swipe will bring, so your brain keeps pulling the lever. Over time, this trains your attention to crave novelty and reject stillness. That's why many people say they feel busy all day but accomplish nothing. They're mentally exhausted without doing anything physically demanding. They jump between tasks, tabs, apps, and ideas, but nothing gets finished. This isn't multitasking. Multitasking is mostly a myth. What's actually happening is task switching. And task switching has a real cognitive cost. Every time you switch from one task to another, your brain has to let go of the old context and load a new one. That process burns mental energy. Studies show it can take over 20 minutes to fully regain focus after an interruption. Now imagine that happening dozens or hundreds of times a day. This constant switching creates mental fatigue. Not the kind you feel after hard work, but a quiet, draining exhaustion that makes everything feel heavier than it should. And when your brain is tired, it looks for relief. The easiest relief is distraction. So you scroll, you check your phone, you watch something short. The cycle continues. Over time, this doesn't just affect focus, it affects memory. If you're not fully attentive when information comes in, it never gets properly encoded. That's why people say they watch videos, read articles, or learn things, but nothing sticks. Your brain filters aggressively when it's overloaded. It forgets most of what you consume because it doesn't have the resources to process it deeply. This creates the feeling that you're always consuming but never absorbing. And that's where many people get stuck. They feel like something is wrong with them, when in reality, their brain is responding exactly as it was trained to. Let's zoom in on the real enemy here, because it's not that you lost your focus, it's that your attention is being constantly hijacked. Most people think distractions are external. A notification pops up, someone texts you, you get pulled away. But the deeper problem is that after years of constant stimulation, distraction becomes internal. Even when nothing is happening, your brain starts scanning for something new. That's why you can sit down to watch a long video, open a book, or start a task, and within minutes you feel this restless itch. You're not even bored yet, but you're already craving the next hit of novelty. And this is where short-form content changes everything. Short videos are designed to create fast emotional spikes. Surprise, humor, shock, satisfaction, curiosity, all compressed into seconds. And when your brain gets used to that pace, normal life starts to feel slow. Not just slow, but wrong. Because focus is basically the ability to stay with a feeling long enough for your brain to build meaning around it. That takes time. But short-form content trains you to exit the moment before meaning forms. You get a quick stimulus, you react, then you move on. So you don't build depth, you build reflexes. And over time, those reflexes show up everywhere. You can't watch a long conversation without checking your phone. You can't read a page without drifting. You can't work for 30 minutes without wanting a reward. A lot of people call this dopamine and stop there, but let's make it simple. Dopamine is not just the chemical of pleasure. It's the chemical that tells your brain, this matters. Pay attention. So when you constantly feed it high-intensity, high-novelty inputs, your brain starts raising the bar for what counts as worth paying attention to. That's why people describe everything as boring now. Movies, YouTube, music. Even hanging out with friends can feel weirdly understimulating sometimes. It's not because these things got worse. It's because your brain's attention threshold got recalibrated, and when that threshold rises, you need more stimulation just to feel normal. That's why the endless scrolling habit feels so automatic. It's not always about entertainment. Sometimes it's about regulation. You're using quick content to numb stress, avoid discomfort, or fill silence. This is also why silence feels uncomfortable for a lot of people now. Not because silence is bad, but because silence leaves space for your mind to notice how overloaded it feels. And if you've been living in a constant stream of input, quiet can feel almost threatening. Now add notifications on top of that. Notifications are not just interruptions. They are psychological triggers. Even if you don't tap them, they split your attention. Because the moment you see or hear a notification, your brain opens a mental tab. What was that? Who was it? Do I need to respond? Did I miss something? That tiny question keeps running in the background. So you're trying to focus, but part of your mind is still half open, waiting. That creates mental friction, it drains energy, it makes the task feel heavier. And then you wonder why you can't stay with anything. You're also dealing with cognitive overload. Your working memory, the part of your brain that holds information temporarily, can only handle a few items at once. When you overload it with constant input, tabs, messages, feeds, and decisions, it starts dropping things. That's why you walk into a room and forget why. That's why you reread the same sentence 3 times. That's why you start a task, get interrupted, and never come back. Your brain wasn't built to hold infinite context. And this leads to one of the most overlooked effects of the modern attention economy. You don't just lose focus, you lose completion. You stop finishing things. Because finishing requires sustained attention, but it also requires tolerance for discomfort. The middle of any task is the boring part. The middle is where there's less reward and more effort. And if your brain is conditioned to escape the moment effort rises, you'll constantly abandon things midway. That's why people are starting 10 projects and completing none. They're not lacking ambition. They're lacking the ability to stay through the low stimulation phase. There's also a psychological layer here. Unfinished tasks create mental noise. Your brain keeps them running in the background. That's part of why you feel mentally tired without doing much. You have 15 open loops. Messages you didn't answer, things you started, plans you didn't finish, and each one takes a little bit of attention just by existing. So now your attention is divided even before you open your phone. And then we add stress. Stress and anxiety don't just make you feel bad. They consume cognitive resources. When your brain is worried, it's constantly checking for danger. Not physical danger, but social danger, financial danger, future danger. That vigilance is attention. It pulls your focus away from whatever you're trying to do. Poor sleep makes this worse. Sleep is when your brain restores attention and consolidates memory. If you're sleep deprived, your prefrontal cortex, the part that handles self-control and focus, gets weaker. So the impulses get louder and the discipline gets quieter. That's why so many people feel like they're living in a loop. They can't focus, so they fall behind. So they get stressed, so they scroll to escape. Then they sleep worse. Then, the next day, focus is even harder. None of this is because you're broken. It's because your environment is optimized for fragmentation. But here's the good news. Focus comes back faster than people think if you stop treating it like motivation and start treating it like training. And I have a really good recommendation for you if you want to get your focus back and start finishing what you begin. I'm going to recommend a very good book that talks exactly about this topic in a clear and practical way. It's not academic, it's not complicated, it's simply useful for understanding what's happening and rebuilding your focus. The book is called Focus: How 1 Word a Week Will Transform Your Life. And I left the link for you to check it out here in the description, along with the link to our website. Yes, we now have a website where we bring together all the kinds of topics we like to talk about here on YouTube, and there you'll also find an organized list of Amazon products that we truly recommend, hand-picked items that help with focus, sleep, simple organization, studying, and much more to boost your results. Come take a look, no obligation. I'd be very grateful, everyone. All the links are in the description, and now let's get back to the video. Now let's talk about how focus actually comes back, because this is where most content goes wrong. People either oversimplify it or turn it into a moral issue like you just need more discipline or willpower. That framing is not only wrong, it makes things worse. Focus is not something you force, it's something you rebuild. Think of attention like physical stamina. If you haven't run in years, you don't start with a marathon. You start by walking. Attention works the same way. Years of fragmented input weakened your ability to stay, so the goal is not to suddenly become hyper-focused. The goal is to reduce friction and slowly retrain depth. The first step is not adding anything. It's removing excess input. Your brain cannot recover focus while it's still being flooded. That means short-form content has to be limited, not eliminated forever, but clearly contained. When short videos become your default filler for boredom, stress, or silence, your brain never gets a chance to reset its baseline. You don't need a dramatic detox, you need boundaries. One simple rule already helps a lot. No short-form content during moments of transition, no scrolling when you wake up, no scrolling between tasks, no scrolling before sleep. Those moments shape your attention more than you think. The second step is rebuilding tolerance for low stimulation. This part is uncomfortable, and that's the point. Focus doesn't disappear because tasks are hard. It disappears because we lost tolerance for boredom. The brain now escapes the moment stimulation drops. So you retrain that tolerance on purpose. You sit with a task slightly longer than feels comfortable. Not hours, minutes. When the urge to check your phone appears, you don't fight it aggressively, you just delay it. 10 seconds, then 30, then a minute. That delay is attention training. You're teaching your brain that discomfort doesn't equal danger, and boredom doesn't require escape. Over time, this restores your ability to stay. The third step is single tasking, but done correctly. Single tasking doesn't mean perfection. It means protecting one task from unnecessary context switching. That means fewer tabs, fewer apps open, fewer background interruptions. The brain performs best when the environment is boring. One practical change that works surprisingly well is making your phone physically harder to access. Not in your pocket, not face up on the desk, out of sight. Every time your phone is visible, part of your attention is allocated to resisting it. The fourth step is closing loops. Unfinished tasks drain attention even when you're not actively thinking about them. That's why writing things down matters. When you externalize tasks, reminders, and ideas, your brain stops rehearsing them in the background. This is not about productivity systems, it's about mental relief. Fewer open loops means less background noise, which means more available focus. The fifth step is sleep and recovery, and this one is non-negotiable. You cannot out-train sleep deprivation. Sleep restores attention, emotional regulation, and memory consolidation. When sleep is poor, everything else feels harder. Focus, motivation, patience, all of it. Even small improvements matter. Consistent sleep times, less screen exposure before bed, morning light. These aren't wellness cliches, they directly affect your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for focus and impulse control. Now let's talk about expectations, because this is where many people sabotage themselves. Focus does not come back as a sudden feeling of clarity. At first, it comes back as resistance. Tasks feel quieter, slower, less exciting. That's normal. Your brain is recalibrating. If you expect everything to suddenly feel motivating, you'll assume nothing is working and go back to stimulation. Instead, look for subtle signs. You finish something small. You read longer than yesterday. You feel less restless sitting still. Those are wins. Over time, depth starts to feel rewarding again. Conversations feel richer. Learning sticks. Long-form content stops feeling exhausting. Not because it changed, but because your brain did. The most important mindset shift is this: focus is not about intensity. It's about consistency. You don't need perfect days. You need repeated exposure to depth without escape. And one last thing that matters more than people admit: your environment trains you more than your intentions. If your surroundings constantly push novelty, speed, and interruption, you'll fight an uphill battle. If your environment is calmer, simpler, and quieter, focus becomes easier without effort. That's why this problem is not personal. It's cultural, and the solution is not extreme. It's simple, gradual, and realistic. You don't need to quit technology. You need to stop letting it train your attention for you. When you do that, focus doesn't just return, it feels normal again. And that's it for this video. If this helped you in any way, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It really helps more than you think. Also, leave a like. It tells YouTube to show this to more people who might need it. If you want to go deeper, I left the link to the book and to our website in the description. On the site, you'll find more content like this and a curated list of tools we genuinely recommend to help with focus, sleep, and simplifying daily life. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in the next video.